What's up, guys? UFC 298 just concluded, and it was a very good card. Definitely better than 297. Alexander Volkanovski versus Ilia Topuria was a good fight. We saw a new champion get crowned. We saw a crazy knockout. The co-main event, Robert Whittaker versus Paulo Costa, was amazing. In my opinion, the best fight on the card. I don't know how this didn't win fight of the night. Geoff Neal versus Garry wasn't great. Garry just kind of ran around the octagon. They didn't really exchange too much. Merab versus Cejudo was cool. There was some really good wrestling sequences between them two. Anthony Hernandez getting that submission over Kopylov was good as well. And then the prelims were amazing. Lemos versus Mackenzie Dern was a great fight. Lemos dominated the second round. The Mackenzie Dern somehow came back after almost getting finished and won the third round. Very close fight. Rogério de Lima versus Junior Tafa was alright, I guess. It wasn't really competitive. Rinya Nakamura versus Vera was probably the worst fight on the whole card. Vera was just rolling for the leg. It was a very slow-paced fight. And then Zhang, Mingyang, and Brendson Ribeiro was an amazing fight. Those boys were exchanging. We saw a very good knockout. But let's start with the main event. Ilia Topuria knocks out Alexander Volkanovski in the second round to become the new featherweight champion. And what a performance from Ilia. The way he found that right overhand over the shoulder of Volk, the way he placed that shot was so perfect. Volk pretty much had the same defense throughout this entire fight, where he would lean away, put his right hand up, and then either extend out his left hand or drop his left hand, which leave that right hand opening over the shoulder of Volk for Ilia, and Ilia was able to pick it out and he placed it perfectly. We all knew going into this fight that Volk had to keep Ilia out of the pocket. We have seen Ilia just time and time again just absolutely fold guys when he gets in the pocket with his 3-punch, 4-punch combinations, like he did to Damon Jackson, like he did to Jai Herbert. And Volk did do a good job keeping Ilia at range, especially in that first round. He was very kick heavy. He was using the lead leg, head, and body kicks because for most of this fight they were in the same stance, so that open side was the lead leg of Alexander Volkanovski. He was also using some good inside leg kicks, which, because of the way Ilia stands, were very effective. Ilia doesn't really check or defend leg kicks at all, but Ilia himself was also landing some very good leg kicks. I think the first one he landed nearly knocked Volk off his feet, and pretty much everyone he landed hurt Volk to some extent. But Volk was doing a pretty good job keeping Ilia at bay, keeping him on the end of his reach, using his jab very effectively out of both stances. Overall, Volk was looking pretty good. He definitely won that first round. Then the second round came out and he approached it very differently. He wasn't as kick heavy. He was boxing with Topuria more, which plays right into Ilia's strengths, and Ilia was able to work his way into pocket. He was cutting off the cage very well, especially in that second round as he got his range and timing down. Volk was having a much harder time escaping off the fence, and he was just on the back foot for most of this fight, and Ilia was eventually able to work his way into the pocket and found that finish. Now, a lot of people have been asking the question, did that Islam Makhachev knockout affect Volk? And I touched on this in my breakdown video. Go watch that if you haven't done so already. And I said at the end of the day, we'll never know. If I had to guess, I would say it definitely affected Volk to some extent. But at the same time, as many people have pointed out, I don't think any version of Volk could take that punch from Ilia. Ilia hit so hard and he placed that punch so perfectly, and Volk did not see the punch coming. The punches that hurt you the most are the ones you don't see. So I think coming back so soon from that knockout definitely affected him, but I don't know if it would have changed the outcome. But this is a tough one for Volk fans. A lot of people love Volk, and it's hard not to. He's just a great guy, very entertaining personality, very entertaining fighter. At first, I didn't really like him because he beat Max Holloway 3 times, and Max Holloway is my second favorite fighter of all time. I can remember when he fought Max Holloway for the 3rd time and he was just piecing him up. I got so mad, I turned off the fights. I didn't even watch the main event, which was Cannonier versus Israel Adesanya. But over time, I definitely grew to become a fan of his, and it's tough seeing guys like this get knocked out, but it's part of the sport. He was so close to becoming the greatest featherweight of all time in my mind. In my mind, I still have Aldo just a little above him. If he beat Ilia, I would have definitely put Volk over Ilia. I hold him and Aldo at a similar level, and he can still definitely claim that spot. But who knows, coming off 2 knockout losses, brutal knockout losses as well, at his age, he's definitely going to need a lot of time off. But what's next for both of these guys? Volk definitely deserves the immediate rematch. He was a dominant champion. He was a champion for over 4 years. He had 5 title defenses. He's one of the greatest featherweights of all time, so he definitely deserves that immediate rematch. But as I said, he needs to take time off. I think at least 9 months to a year, so he wouldn't come back till at the earliest late this year, early next year. And it seems like Ilia wants to defend his belt in Spain, probably in the summer or early fall, so I don't think Volk will be ready on time. So I think Ilia should fight Max Holloway. That's a tough fight, especially on the feet. If Max can keep this fight standing, he has the chin to take Ilia's shots, at least I think he does. was. He's a very good boxer. He's tall, he's long. You can look for some good head kicks. Just keep Ilia at range. Put volume on him. But can Ilia take this fight down? Max does have decent takedown defense, but we have seen Max get taken down and controlled before, like against Alexander Volkanovski. So if Ilia can take this fight down, I think he's going to be able to control Max. He's going to be able to look for some ground and pound, look for submissions. It's a tough fight for both guys, but Max is fighting Justin Gaethje in April, and there's a strong chance he's not going to come out of that fight healthy. He's probably going to need to take some time off after that fight, and he might just decide, hey, I want to stay up here at lightweight. So if that's the case, then I guess you do Ilia versus Movsar. Movsar is probably the most deserving of a title shot out of everyone, even over the winner of Yair and Ortega. And a Movsar versus Ilia fight could be interesting. Movsar does present some stylistic challenges to Ilia with his wrestling style, but Ilia is definitely the better overall fighter. It's going to be interesting to see what Ilia's reign looks like, how long he's going to be the champion for. He's very young, 27. He still has 8-9 years of fighting left. He's not even in his prime yet, which is crazy. And then we go to the co-main event. Robert Whittaker defeats Paulo Costa by a unanimous decision. I agree with it. I think Whittaker won the second and third round. I actually gave the first round to Costa because he almost finished Whittaker with that spinning wheel kick at the end of the first round. Who knows? Maybe if he had a bit more time, he could have knocked Robert Whittaker out in the first round, which would have been crazy. But this might be the best version of Paulo Costa I have ever seen, which is interesting because he's coming off a 1.5-year layoff, and the last time he was in the octagon against Luke Rockhold, he put on his worst performance. So he went from the worst version of Costa I've ever seen to the best version. He looks so technical out there. He's using his jab very well. He's using the leg kicks. The power difference between him and Whittaker was very clear, but Whittaker also looked very good in this fight. His jab was amazing. Per usual, he has one of the best jabs I've ever seen. He was also using the leg kicks very well. The jab was always there because Costa doesn't really move his head. He doesn't have the best striking defense in general, and Whittaker was working off his jab so well. He was setting up that right hand, using the 1-2s. Like I said in my breakdown video for this fight, the straight punches down the center line are just always going to be there against Paulo Costa, and Costa was always trying to look to counter with that lead left hook over the shoulder of Whittaker, and he did get close a couple of times. Like I said, the leg kicks were very effective for both guys here, and Costa was really trying to use those leg kicks to set up the head kicks, and he did get close on a few of them. He did obviously land that spinning wheel kick that landed flush on the chin of Whittaker. Whittaker did not see it, but overall both guys looked very good. As I said, this is probably the best version of Costa I've ever seen, but Whittaker's just on a whole nother level. Now what's next for both of these guys? I'm actually probably going to make a video where I match make the top 10 of the middleweight division because it's just a shit show right now, but the way I would match it up is I would have Paulo Costa fight Nasruddin Imavov, and I would have Robert Whittaker have a rematch with Jared Cannonier, but there's so many different fights you could put together. And then we go to Ian Garry defeating Geoff Neal by a unanimous decision. Now take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt because I have not gone back and rewatched this fight yet, but I actually scored the fight for Geoff Neal. I gave him rounds 1 and 2, and then the third obviously went to Ian Garry. Definitely not mad at the decision because the first 2 rounds were extremely competitive, could have gone to either guy in my opinion, so I see why Ian Garry won, but I did score this fight for Geoff Neal. But this was a pretty slow paced fight. Ian Garry just kind of sat on the outside, kicking at Geoff Neal, landing his jab, keeping Neal at range because he is the longer fighter. Even though he has a shorter reach, Geoff Neal actually has the reach advantage, but Geoff Neal was having to find entries in on the longer opponent, and he was able to get in the pocket at some points and did land some good combinations, but Ian Garry was always able to escape back out to range. He would land a jab and circle off the cage. He was using the kicks, especially the body and the head kicks, a lot as well because they are in opposite stances, so that power side kick for Ian Garry is the open side on Geoff Neal, but Geoff Neal just couldn't cut off the cage. There were so many times where Geoff Neal had Ian Garry stuck up against the fence and Ian Garry would find ways to escape. There were so many times when Ian Garry would find himself backed up against the cage and he would feint or throw out a right hand or something, get Geoff Neal to backstep away, which would open up an exit out the left side for Ian Garry to escape back to the center. He did this so many times, and instead of stepping into Ian or slipping the punch, just staying in front of him, he would backstep away, which gave Ian Garry the room to escape. Not a great look for Geoff Neal. This fight was extremely winnable. Those first 2 rounds were very close. Even that third round, he wasn't out of that third round. If he was more active, if he was cutting off the cage, landing good combinations, just had more urgency instead of almost fighting passive like he did, he could have definitely won this fight. But I wouldn't say it was a great performance from either guy. Ian Garry did get the split decision. As for what you do next for both of them, Ian Garry called out Colby Covington at the end of the fight. I think that fight does make a lot of sense. Colby's number 5 in the rankings, Ian Garry's number 6, and then he said he wants to beat Colby and then fight someone in the top 2 and then get a title shot next year. As for Geoff Neal, I think you do him versus the winner of Kevin Holland and Michael Venom Page. And then we go to Merab Dvalishvili beating Henry Cejudo by a unanimous unanimous decision. Cejudo didn't look too bad, especially in that first round. He actually won that first round. The wrestling sequences between these two were amazing. Henry was able to escape and reverse a lot of positions against Merab. He really hurt Merab with that left hook at the end of the first round. That left hook was landing all the time for Cejudo. It wasn't just that one instance. Whenever they would exchange, Cejudo would always catch Merab with that left hook, but the pace and pressure Merab put on Cejudo was ridiculous. Merab has insane cardio. He gassed Cejudo out in the second round, something Aljamain couldn't do. Cejudo went 5 rounds easily with Aljo, but started gassing out in the second against Merab, and that's because of the pressure Merab puts on him. He over doubled the amount of strikes thrown. He was constantly attempting takedowns, just making Cejudo work. And the size and strength difference between these two was so clear. There were so many instances where Merab was just out muscling Cejudo, dragging him around the octagon. It really reminds me of when Khamzat fought Li Jingliang, and they did a similar thing. Merab picked Cejudo up, I think in the second round, dragged him across the cage, and then dumped him right in front of Mark Zuckerberg and started talking to him. Very similar to how Khamzat picked up Li Jingliang and then dumped him right in front of Dana and started talking to him. Cejudo was definitely the more technical striker. He was catching Merab a lot, and he was defending a lot of the takedowns. He reversed a lot of them too, but just the youth and size of Merab was so clear in this fight. Makes you wonder what would have happened had Cejudo not retired right in the middle of his prime and took a 3-year break. But this is a tough one for Cejudo. He didn't even get his moment at the end to retire. Dana in the post-fight press conference said, "Cejudo, you already retired once. We're not going to give you that mic time," which is ridiculous to me because Cejudo is one of the greatest of all time, a 2-division champion, and you can't give him 2-3 minutes to have his moment and retire, which I'm not sure he has formally retired yet, but it did seem like he was going to retire. He said if he lost this fight, he was going to retire. He left the cage with both of his gloves off, so it seems like that's it for Cejudo. As for Merab, he should definitely get the title shot next. He should get the winner of Cheeto versus O'Malley. I think O'Malley is a tougher fight for Merab than Cheeto is because of his distance striking, because of his power. His takedown defense as well is probably better than Cheeto's. And O'Malley can knock out anyone on the planet, but if I had to make an early prediction, I would say Merab definitely beats O'Malley, and I think he definitely beats Cheeto as well. And then we go to Anthony Hernandez getting a second round submission over Roman Kopylov. Kopylov was looking pretty good. He was defending a lot of the takedowns. He was landing some good kicks. He landed one really good body kick in the first round. He was clearly the better striker, but Anthony Hernandez is tough. He has an amazing chin. He was able to work on the inside, land some good punches, almost dirty box Roman Kopylov up close. And then once Hernandez got this fight down, it was pretty much over for Kopylov. Kopylov doesn't have great grappling on the ground, as we have seen. Hernandez was able to get him in that submission pretty easily, but Kopylov's submission defense didn't look too bad. He was hand fighting that top hand, breaking the grip, but eventually Hernandez was able to get under the chin and submitted Roman Kopylov with a rear naked choke in the second round. Great performance from Anthony Hernandez. I am, as I said, going to do a video where I match make the middleweight division, but I think he should fight Roman Dolidze next. Kopylov is extremely talented. He has amazing takedown defense. He's a very good striker, very technical, but he just needs to work on his grappling. And then we go to Amanda Lemos beating Mackenzie Dern by a unanimous decision. I thought it was the right decision. Lemos clearly won the second, Dern clearly won the third, and I thought Lemos definitely won the first round. The leg kicks were definitely more damaging than anything Mackenzie Dern did. Dern was able to get her to the ground and was able to transition, get some good positions on her, which is scored. Some people forget that positions are also scored in effective grappling. It's not just attempting submissions, getting close on submissions. It's also being able to transition into dominant positions. But Dern's positional grappling, I would say, definitely did not outweigh the damage from the leg kicks from Amanda Lemos. Mackenzie Dern is so talented. She has amazing jiu-jitsu, but she just doesn't have the wrestling, doesn't have the striking. If she can't take this fight to the ground, she's not going to beat anyone, and she doesn't have great wrestling to take the fight to the ground. Her striking is terrible. She walks forward and just wings punches. She has terrible technique with her boxing, and that's a big reason as to why she got caught in that second round. Lemos is very accurate, very powerful. She's the hardest hitting strawweight of all time, in my opinion, and she was able to rock Mackenzie Dern in that second round, dropped her, followed up. I don't know how Mackenzie Dern survived, and then followed her to the ground, clinched up with her, and looked for ground and pound. I don't know why Lemos didn't just separate and force Mackenzie Dern to stand up with her again, because she was almost out on her feet. But Mackenzie Dern is tough. She has a very good chin. She somehow was able to win that third round after getting brutalized in that second round. She got punched right in the eye and fell because of how much pain she was in. I thought she broke her orbital bone or something for a minute. Mackenzie Dern is so talented. As I said, she has amazing jiu-jitsu. She probably has the best grappling in the strawweight division, but she just has no wrestling. She did have one good time takedown in the first round, but she really needs to work on her wrestling. You can't just Imanari roll or pull guard or try and scramble to the ground. You really need to develop good takedowns. She has a very similar problem to Brian Ortega, where they're both amazing grapplers, but just don't have the wrestling to use their grappling. Good performance from Amanda Lemos. I think she should fight Verna Jandiorba or Tatiana Suarez next. And then we go to Marcos Rogério de Lima knocking out Junior Tafa in the second round with leg kicks. It was the story of the leg kicks. He was landing those all fight. The very first one he landed hurt Junior Tafa, and he just kept following it up, brutalizing that lead leg. Ain't it crazy? A guy with a kickboxing background can't check a leg kick. Tafa really just didn't have much for Rogério de Lima in this fight. He was very passive. He was trying to technically box with Rogério de Lima, but de Lima just kept kicking at his leg, He landed a good left hook as well in that first round. And then when Rogério de Lima really hurt him with a leg kick, had Junior Tafa stumbling, limping, had him switching stances. That's another thing. Junior Tafa could not switch into southpaw because I guess he's not comfortable fighting out of southpaw. That's a problem with a lot of heavyweights. A lot of these guys can't switch stances, which if you look at some of the lower weight divisions like the bantamweight division, pretty much everyone can switch stances. He tried to switch into southpaw at times, but he just wasn't comfortable. But de Lima had Junior Tafa limping after a leg kick, and the way he shot a takedown. I don't understand. I get it. He's a very good grappler. He wants to use his grappling. He's very comfortable on the ground, but just continue following up with leg kicks. And then in the second round, he landed a big leg kick. Junior Tafa went to the ground and he was just done. Finished him with ground and pound after that. Good performance from Marcos Rogério de Lima. And then we go to Rinya Nakamura beating Carlos Vera by a unanimous decision. Not a great fight here. Vera was just constantly rolling for his leg. Vera was really looking for the finish because he knew he wasn't going to win a decision, so he was constantly rolling for the leg, just looking for submissions. On the feet, he was looking for the knockout. He threw a spinning wheel kick which missed, and the momentum carried him to the ground. That's how hard he threw it, because he was just looking for the finish. There were many opportunities for Nakamura to look for ground and pound, but he just never used it. He didn't really throw many punches. Throughout those 3 rounds, he only landed 38 total significant strikes. It was a very slow-paced fight. And then we go to Mingyang knocking out Brendson Ribeiro in the first round. Those boys were trading. They were just standing right in front of each other, unloading combinations in the pocket. And Mingyang caught Ribeiro with a beautiful 3-punch combination, finished it with a right hook, I believe, putting him down. Mingyang's boxing looked very good here. He has a lot of power. He's coming down from the heavyweight division, I believe. He has an amazing chin, was able to take good shots from Ribeiro, and Ribeiro didn't have the chin to take his shots. And Ribeiro was doing a good job keeping Mingyang at range, using his reach, using his distance, using his jab. But once Mingyang got in the pocket, it was over. But that's the end of the video, guys. I missed the first 3 fights on this card. I'm gonna have to make those up at some point. But anyways, that's the end of the video. If you are new here and you did enjoy, please be sure to subscribe. We're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers by April, so if you did subscribe, that'd be greatly appreciated. Turn on post notifications so you never miss an upload. Like the video if you did enjoy. Leave your opinions on this card in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one.